I want to talk about modesty as a ministry because I think, especially in this day and age where the feminist movement has taken over and says, well, you don't have to wear dresses, you don't have to do this. That's where women can, ladies of God, can shine so brightly because it's a way to send a signal that they refuse to buy into the feminist movement, the Jezebel spirit nonsense, and they seek to follow God, not man. And it has to be a conviction. Some will say, well, where does it say specifically in the Bible? Well, you can read about the priest and look at their garments. That gives you somewhat of a clue, I think. Also, you can look at Paul. Of course, they'd say, oh, well, he was a misogynist or something. And you read in 1 Timothy 2, we'll start in verse 8 for context. Therefore I want men in every place to pray, lifting up holy hands without wrath or dissension. Likewise, I want women to adorn themselves with proper clothing, modestly and discreetly, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or costly garments, but rather by means of good works, as is proper for women making a claim of godliness. A woman must quietly receive instruction. You could go into that, but that's another can of worms in today's day and age. And you can also read in 1 Peter 3, where he talks about he says, your adornment must not be merely external, braiding the hair or wearing gold jewelry or putting on dresses, but let it be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable quality of gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. He's talking about it going with yes, you wear the dresses, the long dresses, but that goes with the hidden person of the heart with imperishable quality of gentleness and quiet spirit. That's one of the things that modesty shows. Over time, that's what I see in women. That's one of the reasons why I see it so beautiful, I think, is that modesty says that there are women that when they dress modestly, they act differently than they would otherwise. It affects the way we behave. Just like when women wear heels, that there's a lot of things that they get the rebellious spirit and this type of thing. I find when I wear my tunic and my tallit, which is what I'm wearing now, and my tunic, which is odd in this culture, no doubt, I'm going to be looked upon differently, and I'm going to be held to a standard. In a sense, modesty is almost like being held to permission to be held to a higher standard to some degree. And people are going to, when your looks set apart, they're going to hold you to a set apart standard from the rest. And that should be something we welcome, both men and women. And head covering, I see it as a crown for daughters of the King of the universe. I think that's why it was removed during the adultery test, that's a type of God being the husband and going through the adultery test, the bitter waters, just as you have in Revelation. But head covering is a very special thing. It's crowned for daughters of the King of the universe, hence a physical symbol of a spiritual protection. And sure, you can say, oh well, it's the inner part. Well, the outer change comes from the inside out. As God changes the heart, the outside changes. I never expected ever to have this long a beard or this long of hair. The hair is not so much a spiritual thing other than it makes me more sensitive to the people around me, I think, and protects my neck and my ears, which is practical, the practical reason for it. The beard is portable air filter and all those sorts of things, but it's also a symbol of my desire to live a covenant lifestyle. That's one of the reasons to have this, for me, anyway. You can read the Nazarite vow and you kind of see that, you see that with the not cutting of hair. And it's a symbol of my desire to be devoted to God. Same with the tunic, the tallit. And the tunic and the tallit, to me, remind me of the burnt offering, that I am covered with Christ, who was represented in the burnt offering, among other things. Because the skin of the burnt offering was kept, where Paul talks about putting on the new self. And you also look at back with Adam and Eve. They tried to cover themselves with leaves, but God said that's not right, not sufficient. He covered them with skins, which means an animal had to die because of their sin, to cover their sin. Just like Christ dies for us and gives us His peace, His shalom, His righteousness, as you see in the temple with the gold-wrapped boards. I believe that represents the human nature covered by the righteousness of God and through the Holy Spirit and through Christ, of which the foundation is redemption, which is the silver in the tabernacle. All these things are related. And women, ladies that embrace head covering and modesty, it changes them. Many give up makeup. They give up the high heels. They give up a lot of these things because they want to please God. They want to be pleasing to God, and God heals their insecurities in a lot of ways. Maybe not everything, but in a lot of ways, it's a healing process. In a sense, maybe the modesty is part of a permission for God to come in and heal the inside more, because how a woman is going to be treated is going to change completely. I remember a young lady telling me when I asked her how she felt about when she had embraced modesty as a lifestyle, and she said she had more self-respect and self-worth. What is makeup? Makeup is ladies trying to cover up and make up for what they think God made flawed, and put on a mask, as in like mascara and things like that. But it can be a ministry. I don't know about any other guys, but like in churches and stuff, I feel something really special that I can't quite explain when women are dressed modestly within the churches. There's just something that changes. And I feel very blessed when I see women that are wearing long dresses or long skirts and or head covering, usually the head covering and modesty go together, but when I see those things, it ministers to me like it's like looking at a window, through a window of heaven, because of the change in that woman, the change in that lady, reminds me that this evil world will not last forever. So hopefully these are things that you might consider. I know this is a topic that isn't talked about an awful lot. It tends to be avoided. It's not popular. But have the outside reflect the inside cleanness as he cleans up the inside of the cup. The outside of the cup starts to resemble him as well. And I think that's part of what modesty does, especially when it is paired with a gentle and quiet spirit compared to the rebellious, self-willed Jezebel spirit that we've seen in the culture today. Shalom, shalom.